Adventurers, welcome back to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. I'm here with Lotus of Doom. And Lotus, we are talking about more Daedric creatures because we're still only about 2/3 of the way through our list.
It's madness how many there are. And anybody here for the start of the show where we had a mishap, I secretly wanted us to play like all your other Lorecast intros before we got to the correct one. I wanted the theme song to like the Starfield Lorecast to pop up next.
Oh, I can play that. You want me to switch over? I can play that real quick.
I love that song.
Yeah, I accidentally hit the Fallout one. It happens. It uses the same button. For some reason, this show and Fallout are all on the same sound settings, and then all my other shows have their own sound settings, so I can accidentally hit the wrong button because it's the start button for every other show.
Sure.
But for this show, this button is different. So if I'm going to mess it up, I mess it up. Anyway, welcome back. You guys don't need to know how the buttons work on all the sound effects. But thank you for joining us. Live chat. Thank you for being here. We are talking more Daedra, and we're getting some little tiny guys with very little information. We got some more developed creatures or peoples or whatever.
We're starting with Battlespire today.
We're starting with Battlespire. Check this little dude out. And by the way, if you are listening to this on audio platforms, you can check out these episodes like either live on my Twitch channel, Robots Radio, or on the Elder Scrolls Lorecast YouTube channel. You can go back and look and see all the pictures and stuff. So check this guy out. Look at this Morphid Daedra, or Morphoid.
Morphoid, I think.
That's how you pronounce it. Yeah, look at it gets real little if I click on him, so I gotta leave him on this screen so it actually zooms in because he's all of 171 by 288 pixels.
Yeah, look at them pixels.
Yeah, here, let's talk about this guy. According to the UASP, friends of the show, who do an awesome job with their wiki, the Morphoid Daedra are somewhat intelligent, horned lesser Daedra. They kind of look like these red demon dudes. They have been known to serve Mehrunes Dagon, surprise, with many being members of Zivali Moath's clan. Morphoid Daedra saw themselves as superior to Scamps and Vermi. So they're not the bottom of the rung of Daedra.
Yeah, so we haven't gotten to Vermi yet, but so in one of the levels for Battlespire, you have this like warring set of clans essentially of Daedra, and Zivali Moath has a decent amount of these, like basically backing his claim up to be like, hey, I'm number one, second in command Daedra Dagon. Bring me on. And then this is how it all goes while they're all betraying each other and doing what Daedra do. But these things are just like stereotypical little devils.
Yeah, they're
literally just like,
guys.
Hey, picture a devil and picture it in 90s graphics.
Right. With extra horns, though. Like extra horns.
Extra horns.
They've got like
more
two
horns
sets.
Means more evil.
Yeah, more horns means more evil. They got two sets of horns on their head, like little ones and then bigger, like curvy ones. Then they have horns coming out of their shoulders. Yep. And then they've got the little spiked tail. They're not wearing any clothes, but they don't seem to have a need to because they're not really covering anything up. And then they've got the goat legs thing going on, and because it's a 90s game, no need for physics. Why not make the thing stand in a way where physically it wouldn't be able to hold its body up because the body weight would just topple over?
Yeah,
there you go.
It's another one of those weird creatures too that has, if I remember correctly, since in Battlespire, if your speech is high enough, you're able to talk to anything in that game. And this is another one where they are just creepy because everything that talks to you in that game is wildly unsettling.
Right. You're basically in hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the most generic, like invader type, like rank and file enemies in Battlespire. So much so that they never really are seen again. But they're also like, I don't know. They're sort of a precursor to the way some things seem like they like might have, because I mean, Dremora already existed as well. So it's not even like, oh, they were the precursors to Dremora because those were in Battlespire as well. But
yeah, it's like they just needed something generic that wasn't quite one of those things, but wasn't as small as a scamp. And
I feel like some of their traits might have been moved on to other creatures, but these things really have not been seen much sense or at all, actually.
Yeah, I mean, just they're kind of, as with so many of these games, you need cannon fodder, right? You need just like things that you can fight.
They're the stormtroopers of Oblivion.
Right, they're the stormtroopers. You just show up. You could tell they're evil because they're red and they have horns and they look a little scary, and so you kill them because they're in the way, right? And then they're bad. But they're bad, but they're not so bad or so hard that they become like a major thing you have to deal with. So they're just a thing to build a game design feature around, basic combat. So that's basically all they are. And strangely enough, we haven't gotten any more of them. It's, it's not like a lot of these kinds of things come back in ESO at some point, and they'll like pull from this and then they'll put them back in.
Sure.
But no Morphoid Daedra in ESO yet.
No Morphoids. They're good with the Morphoids. They just...
Yeah.
Nobody likes the Morphoids.
Yeah. I feel like for Daedra like this, there's always opportunity to expand the lore. Like if I was working at ZOS or I was working on the next Elder Scrolls like mainline game, to take something like this and turn them into more of a people group like the Zivili or whoever. And, maybe there's a story there about them being taken over by these other groups, and so they band together and they fight back and they rebel, or something that can play into a storyline or some location you come across or whatever.
I feel like the main thing about these, why we probably won't see much of them going forward, is the fact that pretty much they didn't make an appearance in the Deadlands expansion in ESO, where they fleshed out so much of that.
So you think it's unlikely that they'll show back up because that would have been the time to do it.
That seemed like that would have been a perfect time for it because they filled out a lot of creatures that we had not seen in a while.
But you could build. I think you're right. You could build a storyline around that though. The reason we don't see them in there is because they're led a rebellion or they're extinct
blah, blah, blah.
Or maybe they are enslaved and they all live underground. And so we didn't actually see them. And then there's some storyline for them rebelling and pushing back and working with the mortals in order to gain a foothold over top of these other Daedra who are higher than
I could totally see something like that. But I feel like because they kind of chose not to bother, they made their choice with what we're getting with them.
Right. It's not going to be likely. Right. Like, I think you're right. But well, I guess we'll see. But you're probably right. We're probably never going to see these guys again.
They're super generic. Like, it's fine. They're fine.
Yeah. So this next one, let's move on to something that we actually do see a good bit about in ESO because they needed cool mounts.
They sure did.
That's how I feel about this one. Although it's I think that's fine justification to create something that looks pretty freaking cool and has kind of some cool lore to it. So
yes, for sure. I don't actually have a problem with these, but that is totally the reason these were created.
Yeah, and this is what we're talking about: nightmare animals. That sounds like a charming thing. Nightmare animals. When you think about mounts in ESO, every so often you'll think of some that have like flaming eyes or like they're dark black and scary looking, kind of like something, I don't know, a ghost would ride, like a haunted spirit, that kind of thing, right? So that's what we have here. Nightmare animals. These are Daedric creatures that originate from the Deadlands and are rumored to have been created by Mehrunes Dagon himself. These creatures have black fur, burning extremities, and then get a load of all these details, and flames hissing from their face. Their eye sockets are on fire. Flames puff from their nostrils as they breathe. The fire pours from their mouths when they make open-mouthed vocalizations. Kind of like dragons, sort of.
Yep.
The ground burns beneath these beasts' feet. Juvenile versions of these creatures exist. They're wolf pups, cinch cubs, and bear cubs that belch fire and plod along with flaming paws. Nightmare bear cubs are affectionate creatures that enjoy physical contact. I love that, like, although they are hellish, scary, on fire creatures that are burning from the inside out, they're still like, but the little ones are cute and they're friendly.
Yeah, they're cuddly and warm. And
It's so weird. The Nightmare Corsair, specifically, is a flame-wreathed horse. It is sometimes used by mortals as a mount, although its chaotic temperament makes this a difficult task. There's also cinches and bears and fire stalkers, a bunch of other things.
Yeah, the whole swath of all the mounts you can get exist with this overlay skin.
yeah. So I'm pulling it up on the stream right now so you can see it. I mean, it's basically like they took a regular horse and they were like, what was the most badass thing we can do with a regular horse model? Well, let's make it all black. Okay, cool. Now let's add fire. Where's the fire? Every open extremity that we have on the model. All of them. Eyes, nose, mouth, got it. But the tail covers it. We don't need to do that one.
Yet.
What if they farted flames?
See, that's what I'm saying. Yet.
That would be amazing. I would pay for extra flame farts.
Flame farts. These things in general are just it's kind of like if Shadowmere had like indigestion, like from Skyrim.
Yeah. Okay, that's another way you could look at it too. Like, okay, let's take Shadowmere and let's turn it up to 11.
Right. Shadowmere's an 8. We need this to be an 11 to sell this skin type of thing, which is a super cynical, out of lore way of looking at it. But that's totally like,
it's totally why you design stuff. But okay, so
it's like,
a less cynical
based on like the Shadowmere idea,
right? A less cynical way of thinking about it would be, our people who want to play this game are going to want really cool freaking looking mounts, right? So what can we make that looks really cool?
You see a lot of them in ESO around Halloween as well. That's where everybody busts these things out and is running around at these things. They super like that might have been the first time they were in the game, but I don't know that specifically. But yeah, they definitely fit the Halloween vibe.
Yeah, they turn on their skeleton skins and then they get on their spooky fire horse and then they ride around. Yeah, that's true. Halloween is always fun. So other than that, we don't really know much about them, like why they were created.
Have a lot of in-depth lore to them.
I would imagine Mehrunes Dagon is making scary creatures because, I mean, everything he does looks kind of scary. And
he's got to do something with all those arms.
He's got to do something with his arms. He's like, even if he's just twiddling 2 thumbs, he still has like 4 other thumbs not occupied. Or
whatever that stupid phrase is.
Right.
He's got all of them.
He's got too many hands.
Too many hands.
But, I would imagine if you wanted some of your minions to ride on something that looks scary and good in war, then you would probably give them something like this. But here's the other thing. The fact that there are young versions of these, like cubs and, little baby versions, means that they probably procreate in some sort of way where they have young and the young grow up.
Yeah,
which is just weird, kind of, for Daedra.
A little bit.
Some of them don't do that. I guess the ones that are based around animals do that.
Yeah, that is weird.
Like, you don't see like children Zivali. Or like the ones that look humanish or elfish or whatever.
Yeah, because when they die and come back, it's the same ones coming back. They're just reforming.
It's like they reform into a new body, and they're like they get this.
I guess the only thing is, though, do we know that they're children, or are they like?
Or they're just like
versions.
Little baby shaped ones, but
they're maybe they're just smaller.
That's even scarier because they could be like ancient, like.
Yeah, maybe they just have a lot of variety in the size they come in.
Dear God. I mean, look at this little dude, this little bear cub. He could be 4,000 years old and just stuck in this little bear body.
And his lust for blood has never been quenched.
Never been satiated. And that's why all the fire comes out of his eyes and his paws.
Yeah.
Oh, man. These poor little wolf pup.
Maybe they're actually corrupted instead.
Oh, maybe.
Because there is no real description on how they're formed. Maybe it's a corruption style. That's actually an interesting idea.
Like they're gathering actual mortal animals.
Right.
And then using some form of magic.
That's an interesting idea, Rosicus. I actually kind of like that. Yeah. So maybe it's like, okay, well, yeah, it was a normal bear cub, but then it got like corrupted into being one of these things.
I mean, look at this little guy. Look at that guy. Look at that little lion cub. Poor little guy.
Yeah, just all corrupted and filled with demonic powers.
Well, that was one of the things we talked about on a previous episode, was the difference between being born as a Daedra and being embodied with a Daedric spirit. And
spirit, right.
Daedrified in some way, right?
Yeah. So actually that maybe actually is that might make more sense since we're thinking. I like that idea. I feel like having had that just brought up, that actually might be more in line with what the basis to them is.
Okay. Well, let's go with that. That's our new headcanon.
Yep,
if you listen to the show
until informed otherwise, based on the information we've been given in the series so far, I like that.
It's it. Ross, your idea has passed. It is now fact.
Yep.
Boom. Done. Don't argue with us. That's just how it is now.
Nailed it.
All right, here, let's do one more before we take our mid-break, because those were pretty quick. Next on the list, Nocturnal Shrike. Now, I have to warn you, I can't show some of the pictures of the earliest versions of these.
You can't show Battlespire.
Because nipples. Because
well, you can show one of the Battlespire images, just not 95% of Battlespires.
Right.
Images.
Some of them have little halter tops, but and even the other games play on this because they have like the hair dangled in front of the body, that kind of thing.
So that's kind of, we can get into their interesting aesthetic because ESO changed it so that they're less M-rated, even though ESO is M-rated. They reeled it back in a little bit to make it a little less with the nudity.
Because nipples
some of the old
hurt
games,
children. Children should
clearly,
never see
but
nipples.
Murder's fine.
But murder's fine.
Murder's fine. ESO, they have they're 90% of they're topless with they just kind of look like blonde ladies, or some of them are. I guess their hair color does vary, but most of them seem blonde for some reason, or white. It's almost like whitish hair.
White hair. There's some black-haired ones, but it's like they have long hair and it dangles in front of their bodies.
There are some other ones, but so like in ESO, their hair is very long and it strategically falls across their chest down to like their skirt type of thing. You don't necessarily have that in Battlespire because Battlespire was made by children.
Well, the flip side of that is that in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, the majority of the PC gaming community was adults. It was the kinds of people who could afford PCs. And so the developers were designing games for adults by adults. And so they were going, well, this is the lore behind it. So let's, the boobs are out.
Let me modify, I guess, so that which I'm completely fine with. I mean, the writing to Battlespire is absolutely ridiculous.
It's like children read it.
Yeah. And that game is literally designed in any way that they could just be like, more boobs, please, more this, more whatever. Let's just be as extreme 90s, 2000s as possible.
Right.
Which is the only reason, because it's like, okay, that's because in general, it's like, I don't care. I mean, honestly, sometimes when these things are closed, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, why would it care? Like, why would a Minotaur give a crap about wearing a loincloth? Who the hell? It's
right.
I don't think that's high on his list of things he cares about.
Yeah, the first thing he does when he gets up in the morning is probably not look for his loincloth.
Right. So it's like that's not the point of it. But they were modified slightly. But they're kind of, again, they're certainly memorable. I guess they're like unique enough, but they're really... They just look like people.
Yeah. Well, here, let's get into the description so people can have a little more sense of what we're talking about.
Sure.
The Nocturnal Shrikes, sometimes simply called Nocturnals or Shrikes, are a race of Daedra found in the Everglown, Nocturnal's realm. Thus Nocturnal Shrikes. In appearance, they resemble tall, pale, scantily clad, beautiful women. Despite their power, Nocturnal Shrikes are prone to bouts of debilitating melancholy. They're depressed.
Oh, I actually kind of forgot it. Yeah, go on. I'll get into that after.
The race is seemingly caste-based, with the terms greater and lesser used to draw distinctions between two individuals of varying power. They often utilize dark magic associated with crows. So nocturnal crows.
Sure,
that makes
again,
sense,
more
right?
with the nocturnal. Yep.
Lesser nocturnals serve greater nocturnals faithfully, offering counsel, and have even been known to make sacrifices out of love for their mistresses. So they're pretty tightly bound together. The Nocturnals of Shade Perilous are led by the Nocturnal Lieutenant Jaciel Morgan, I think is how you pronounce it.
Jaciel Morgan.
Jaciel.
That's another subplot in the Elder Scrolls Legends Battlespire.
Nocturnal Shrikes have various other ranks and titles, such as Crow Caller, Executioner, Gloom Siren, ooh, that's a good one, Night Maiden, Night Sister, Shadow Weaver, Shroud Weaver, it's different than Shadow Weaver, I guess.
Sure.
And Talon. And then there's part of the storyline that plays in ESO. It talks about that. It talks about some other things, but I mean that's the gist of it. Is that these are humanoid Daedra that serve Nocturnal, and they're kind of depressed, and they are loyal to each other.
Well, that's the thing. So in Shade Perilous, we'll go. Man, I never get to go on this many Battlespire rants in one episode. This is wild. So. Again, the thing in Shade Perilous, you're dealing with Jaciel Morgan and all of that. And without going too deep into it, again, it's all on like my full Let's Play of it or whatever. But like, there's a lot. I had a tough time kind of describing it on Tales of Tamriel because it comes across, the writing is really ham-fisted in that game. There's definitely some cool stuff that came out of Battlespire, but overall Battlespire is a rough experience. The writing is really ham-fisted, and they do not deal with the concept of depression well in that game. Because more or less to solve solutions when dealing with Shrikes, you just try to get them more depressed so that they literally get themselves out of the way.
God, 25 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm like, when I was playing through that, I was like, oh, is that the solution to this? Oof. So the whole, like, that sounds sort of like a throwaway line at first, but it's like, oh, they're prone to melancholy. They have depression as part of their like writing, which is weird.
Well, they live in the Evergloam.
I guess that's true. So their setting isn't exactly super uplifting,
right?
But yeah, they straight up have like melancholy, as they use it in the series, is literally part of like what they do, and that's actually like one of their weaknesses because you can exploit it in game, which is just like. Yikes! I don't know how that is a product of its time. I feel like, but
psychological issues were not handled the same way 25 years ago as we handled them today.
They sure were.
If you feel melancholy, if you're having depressive episodes, seek help. There are hotlines you can call. Go talk to a therapist. Like there's somebody. Go to your doctor. There are things that you can do.
It is normal. Like it's not a weird thing that's a detriment to your character build in life. Like it's something that's totally fine to like. Yep. If you gotta
deal with it,
vent. Like it's fine.
The solution is not serving Nocturnal and then becoming a Daedra.
Correct. That is
one taking your top off.
The goofiest way we can explain this. Yes, for sure. Like, yeah, for real.
They do have some cool names though. They like the titles.
Their titles are very cool, and honestly, they've got, like I said, they're kind of generic humanoid type of thing, but they've got a pretty cool look to them.
Oh yeah. They like here. I'm going to put them back on the screen again. Some of the especially
they have on there, what little armor they wear is actually pretty cool as well. So like, they're not total throwaways, but it's just like they're a little peculiar.
Right. The one from Battlespire that I can pull up with the top has kind of this green outfit. It's like a green skirt and a little tube top.
I forget if that's Jaciel Morgan or not.
No, this is a different one.
No, that's a different one. Yeah, you meet a decent amount of them. I couldn't remember if she was the only one that wore a shirt.
Right, and she looks very humanoid in this. But then when you get to the ones in ESO, you got like gray skin with like glowing runes.
Yeah, ESO kind of like went a little weirder with them.
They're cool. I think they look cool. Like the glowing runes and the darker kind of grayish skin is a really cool kind of contrast. It makes them feel otherworldly in a way that I would suppose is difficult when you have a world like Tamriel with so many different races and skin colors and all of that stuff anyway. To take something like this and make it truly feel Daedric, I think going that gray, like making it look desaturated, like...
Well, Yeah, and I like when they get kind of weird with it. Like they don't need to. Sometimes they play things very generic medieval fantasy in points, and I like the mix of that with some of the more weird that you'll get out of the series, and I feel like that's sort of a strength. So like sometimes I like when they lean a little more into the weird, especially when it's not the weird like as in the witches of the weird, but like the weird aesthetic,
right. Not the magic part. Yeah.
Some of the more ethereal stuff. I think that actually benefits the series quite a bit because you get some of the more unique stuff.
Right. Yeah. No, I like it too. And I still think adding Daedra as a playable race in a future game in some way would be awesome. And being able to choose your type of Daedra, like, are you one of these? You know,
sure.
Did you serve Nocturnal? Are you a Shrike? Are you one of the other ones? Did you serve, Mehrunes Dagon and you were, whichever, there's multiple that serve him, right? Like which one do you come from? And that changes like your height, your build, your coloring on your skin, maybe the runes.
You get the weird blue Zivilized skin. Do you have the like Dremora kind of weirdish, like reddish, blackish skin? Like there's options.
Yeah.
A Clanfear.
That would be really cool. I think that would be really, really neat. But working that into a game where people don't just freak out every time you walk into town that part's a little more difficult. Like, you're Daedra. Like, I just want to buy your goods. I'm just shopping. Like,
I'm just trying to sell you these organs.
Yeah.
Which again is totally normal from an adventure. Here's a whole bunch of Daedra hearts, and it's just like wet flap sounds just dumping out of your supply bag.
Yeah. Nice. All right. It's time to take a break. We got to go thank our patrons. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is Hamis Morak, Dragonborn, and you are educating yourself to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
All right, here we are in the middle of the show. This is where we get to thank our patrons, the people who help bring the show to you every week. So thank you,
patrons.
Thank you to all of our patrons, including our newest ones, LC and Maranio. I think that's how you pronounce that. I'm not great at pronunciations.
I like that.
But yeah, very nice names. Thank you so much for joining us. Also, we've got to shout out our Daedric princes, Belli Peritus. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
They still haven't corrected you, huh?
I haven't heard, so maybe I'm doing it all right.
So then you can just take that as that's probably correct. I don't know why, but I'm going to assume it's correct.
I'm going to use that philosophy for everything I do from now on. If I don't get corrected on it, I know I'm right.
That's got no negative ramifications on the horizon at all.
Yep. Also, Kira C and Shiagorth Sweetroll, thank you for your support. All 109 of our current patrons, thank you for being here and supporting the show and keeping it going. And I hope you are enjoying things like ad-free episodes and t-shirts and stickers. Go check out all the designs and all the cool stuff that you can get over at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Also, if you'd like to leave a 5-star review, we'll read it out on a future episode. We don't have any new ones this week, but they mean the world to us and they help everybody realize that this is a show worth checking out. Also, you can rate the show on Spotify. You can share it with your friends, and you can talk to your guild members while you're delving dungeons or whatever. All of that is extremely helpful. So thank you all for the support. All right, let's move on with the rest of the show. We've got one more Daedric creature to talk about.
You're listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, dear child of cities. That is why the Night Mother loves you.
Speaking of love, Lotus, I think I love.
I don't think I like that segue.
I think I love
what to talk about.
I think I love the Ogrim. They're kind of cute. Like that's the next one we're talking about. We're talking about Ogrim. These are like Daedric ogres, right? They're like big, kind of round. They're like if any of the humanoid Daedra were like big teddy bears, but in a Daedric version, that's these guys.
Yeah, instead of fuzzy, they're scaly.
Right. They got some spikes. They look really grumpy, but they look kind of grumpy in a like, well, this guy just needs a hug sort of way.
Shout out to the Morrowind Ogrim specifically.
Oh boy. Yeah, we could pull it here. Let's pull this up.
Please do.
Here, check this out. If you're watching, this is for you. Morrowind Ogrim. All right, we need to describe this for our listeners. If you are a listener of the show, you've probably seen an Ogrim in Skyrim or ESO. Big, scaly, round boys. who are fairly large and, can be difficult to fight. The ones in Morrowind, I think these are the earliest ones, kind of look like frog people.
They kind of do look like frog people. Yeah, that's just they're frog
what else do we say?
They are frog people with horns.
Yeah,
they've become much more sinister over the years as opposed to doofy.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the concept art is pretty cool. Basically they're ogres.
Yes, essentially they're just ogres. They're Elder Scrolls ogres.
Right, Elder Scrolls ogres.
There are ogres in the Elder Scrolls, but which is weird.
The Morrowind one is so good though, because all right, so I need to describe this. I need to describe this in a way that people can understand it. The eyes are too close together. They're red. The mouth is like this big jowl thing, like with a big old jaw or like double chin or whatever that is. They got some horns that stick down, but then the proportions of their body are like a really fat toddler slash crocodile frog person. The arms, I'm not sure if the arms can actually touch over his head, kind of like a toddler.
I'm positive they cannot.
Yeah, they probably can't. He probably can't scratch the top of his head. His feet are like really big, and he looks like he just waddles when he walks, right?
And he has a single piercing.
Oh, and weird, like really, really awkwardly placed nipples with like a nipple ring.
One of them being pierced.
Yep. There you go. That's it. That's all you need to know about those guys. Yep. But they do show up in other games. They're in ESO a lot.
In Elder Scrolls Online, it's a pretty common enemy, especially when you're dealing with Daedra. They're just like, they're the Daedric equivalent of ogres, I guess, because thinking about the fact that there are ogres in the series, the ogres are like the Tamrielic creature of an ogre, and this is just basically the Dremora or Daedra version, not Dremora, Daedric version of an ogre type of thing. It's their Daedric counterpart to an ogre.
Right. And I like the design of the ESO ones. There's still some big boys. They still got some big old round tummies.
And they look pretty cool. But yeah, they like I said, they went from a bit on the derpy side to, okay, these things are actually pretty cool now.
Right. And they don't look particularly smart. They're probably not.
And not all of them are hostile, as you find out in the Deadlands, which is kind of weird. Because Daedric beings aren't always just overtly hostile, and it's kind of weird to see some of them just hanging out at the bar snacking or whatever in the Deadlands expansion. They don't really acknowledge you. They're not like friends with you, but they kind of just let you be because they're just like doing their own thing, which is kind of interesting.
They're kind of semi-intelligent. It's like the intelligent races kind of just put up with them. They're just like,
I'm not sure we've ever heard them speak.
Yeah. Well, here's what the UESP says. It says Ogrim or Ogrims are large, dim-witted Daedra with very little intellect, which are describable as fat-faced ogres. This is in quotes. I didn't look this up ahead of time, but that comes from the Knave of Rook's dialogue during Lost in the Gloam in ESO. So this was a description one of the characters gave of them. They are chiefly sent into the mortal world to menace living things for the amusement of Daedric princes. Ogrim are primarily associated with Malakath. Makes sense. They get like the ogre thing going on, right? They are sturdy and powerful and can regenerate health by pounding their chests. I wish I could do that. Like,
that is a pretty cool feature.
I'm not feeling good today. I've got a cold or I'm constipated. Let me just pound my chest all better. I can poop again.
Just pound out all the sickness.
Yeah, there you go. Lots of poop jokes. For clothing, most Ogrim wear minimal garments, such as modesty cloths. Loincloths is another way to say that.
Kind of like the joke we made earlier of priorities.
Though the higher ranking ones are often suited in armor because they're, running into battle. Due to their immense weight, belly spoons made from curved piece of obsidian are used in easing Ogrim torsos into armor or through narrow doorways. Basically, if you've ever used a shoehorn, if you've ever put on a pair of shoes and you couldn't get your heel in, you need to kind of scoop the shoehorn in there and slide your heel in. That's how they get the belly part of the Ogrims into armor or through doorways. How would you like to have to carry a belly spoon around with you?
I hate all of this.
All right, moving on. Tooth sharpener picks are made specifically for cleaning out the stubborn crevices between Ogrim teeth. They actually have, they take care of their teeth. Many of them...
They seem like they are very hygienic.
Many of them wear jewelry, including nipple piercings, like the Morrowind one we talked about, nipple caps adorned with copper, and nose shackles etched with jagged runes that signify an Ogrim's obeisance to the Daedric master. Every Daedric prince is said to possess legions of Ogrims among other common lesser Daedra. So these are one of the more common ones. As part of why you see them all over the place in ESO. Sanguine uses Ogrim as bouncers for his parties. That sounds like a perfect job.
That's literally a public dungeon in the Elder Scrolls Online in Shadowfen. And if you play ESO, I strongly recommend it if you haven't been to the area. It's a pretty entertaining experience.
Ogrim are also known to serve Molag Bal and Mephala. Molag Bal often employs them as guards and torturers. The lumbering Ogrim is cruel, often entertaining itself by tormenting its underlings. Ogrim toss in a game where a crude ball is kicked around by Ogrims, though it is unclear if it has any actual rules. They just like to kick things.
So we're just going to play kick the ball, and then eventually someone just says they win.
Probably, and then probably ends up in a fight, and they punch each other, and then they walk
that's
away.
it. Yeah, that's. But don't worry, none of them get injured because they just pound their chest.
They just pound their chest. They feel better again. I feel like they probably play this game with somebody's head.
I was about to say, now what are the odds you think this is played with a skull?
Probably.
A ball of feces.
Well, might also be it.
I was thinking immediately. My thought immediately kind of went to like a dung beetle. And I'm just except that's them playing kick the ball because
it's just called kick the ball. It doesn't even have a name. It's not like football or soccer or something else. It's just kick the ball.
Kick the ball.
Want to play kick the ball? Here.
My favorite.
Here, my favorite game, kick the ball. Undisputed winner, I never lose. That's because you always punch me in the face before I could kick the ball. That's not my fault.
Yep. Love it.
Yeah. I want conversations with these. I want to hear what they say to each other. So that's it. Ogrim. That's it. Big ogre looking Daedra.
Yep.
I mean, they're still kind of cute, even though they're hideous and ugly.
They're still kind of cute.
I mean, their heads. It's the head proportion.
Hideous.
It's the head proportion. Like we, as human beings, we are like programmed biologically. When a thing has a big head and a smaller body compared to its head, we think that that's cute. Like infants or small dogs or cats. Like that proportion thing is cute. These they just have that proportion. Their head is significant. It's almost the size of its whole belly. So it looks cute.
They're certainly interesting anatomically.
Yeah. So there you go.
But again, another interesting addition to the series for the most part. I like Ogrim. I think they're a pretty good enemy. Like I said, the Morrowind one is hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. Another I guess good addition to the series or whatnot. And it was kind of interesting to see them fleshed out a little more in Deadlands, other than like we had mentioned, not super intelligent, so they don't have a lot to say exactly, but not to just have them as the generic enemy to blow up type of deal.
Yeah, right. So I like them too. I think these are good. Neat. All right, so that's going to do it for today's episode. Those are our most recent 4 Daedra to go over. We're still at O, so we've got a good ways left of other Daedra to talk about, and we'll be back next week.
I hope this continues to be entertaining. We got a decent, well, again, it's always a bit of a mix because sometimes they're really, really fleshed out. Like we had a couple good ones to discuss, but then also there's like the Morphoid, which is like, okay, it's not a lot to you.
Yeah. But yeah, some of them have more details. And I hope you have a wonderful week, everybody. Lotus, you got anything else going on you want to share? We finished up our thing last weekend.
I was going to say, I wanted to kind of give a big shout out, thank you to everybody that stopped by, donated, just hung out with us, whatever the case, for Extra Life. It was super fun. It was a massive, massive success. Our goal of $2,500 got doubled because we ended up raising $5,000. So that went incredibly well. Huge shout out to the UESP, who provides us the basis for all we talk about type of thing. They actually came through, and because everybody had raised $2,500 basically already, they did a matching donation and just doubled everything. So we ended up blowing our goal out of the water in the end, which was awesome. It was really fun. Ark still has got to get in his time for Battlespire, because we had lots of Battlespire nudges this show. I'll call them nudges. And it was a big success, and you just really wanted to thank everybody for that. We'll have our update episode with Tales soonish type of thing. We just want to cover some news going forward and stuff toward the end of the year. But other than that, hopefully I'm just going to have some time to stream some Daggerfall coming up. And actually, I suppose there is one thing that I can shout out because I'm part of it. It starts on the official Bethesda channel, and then it's going to raid down the line for an entire week. But there is a let me get the exact name of it, because it's got like a legitimate name. But there is a raid train thing starting on the 12th of December. So what's that, 5 days?
That's Tuesday.
5 days.
Tuesday coming up.
Yeah. So Tuesday. On the Bethesda channel, they're showing off the Endless Archive. And then basically there is a group of a lot of us streamers who are going to one by one just show what the Endless Archive is from our different play styles. And there's a lot of different ways to play these games. And that's basically just, it starts on Tuesday, the 12th, and then it will go down the line for an entire week, pretty much nonstop. And my shift is Sunday, which would be the 17th, where I start at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I'll be doing Endless Archives for a 2-hour stint that Sunday. If you feel like stopping by and saying hi, you're more than welcome.
Nice.
But should be a fun time. And definitely check out either Bethesda or any of the people. Will all be popping up in the directory as we'll just be sharing the stream party from one stream to the next as we sign off. So
awesome. I hope that goes really well. Yeah. And then Skyrim actually just got an update too. We've got
it did.
Creation Club is updated. There are now purchasable mods, which is kind of a new thing again,
and
sort of.
I feel like it's interesting because I think it's showing kind of like it's kind of setting up the backbone for what we're going to get with the Fallout 4
and then
Anniversary
Starfield
Edition or whatever the hell they're going to call it.
This is the test. This is clearly the test. They're going to roll this out on Fallout 4. They're going to roll it out in Starfield.
And then
they're going to
Starfield
probably bundle it into the next Elder Scrolls game on release.
This is kind of like, an alternate version of the mods. And, this was kind of a sad thing that I saw, but at the same time, not if you're an Elder Scrolls fan. One of the things I saw discussing it was they were like, they wanted to, use it on an older property rather than blowing up the most current property or something like that.
Sure.
And in the podcast that I was listening to that was talking about that, they were like, because you want it on a smaller population than a bigger population, because obviously you can stress test it easier. And they were like, oh, there's actually 9,000 more people playing Skyrim than there is playing Starfield.
Yeah. The number has dwindled down. But so that's also normal for RPGs after about 3 months of being out. Is that the population
so
does
to
drop.
that point though, whereas I didn't really mean that as a slight against Starfield. They took it as like, oh, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
That is insane. That
many people are still playing Skyrim. Yeah.
Playing like it's got over like 30,000 concurrent people peak on that's
Yep.
The game that never ends.
Well, it's actually become a platform. That's what they've realized.
It's straight up a platform.
It has become a platform. Most people are not, and I can't speak for everyone. Most people are probably not going back through an entire adventure or going, what's over here? Unless they're relatively new to it. And they're like, my dad said I should play this and I'm, 15 now and now I can play it or whatever. But a lot of people are going, oh, what's this mod? How does this mod? How can I make the world the way I want it to work? How can I make companions? How can 100%. I, get some really cool weapons? Let's try out the new combat stuff. So they're treating it like new game releases on a platform.
Yes. And that's mainly what I meant by that statement is it's wild that there are more people playing that still to this day. Like, games would be psyched to have that many concurrent players now.
Oh, sure.
On their game that just came out. And it's like, this game came out in 2011 and it is still going strong.
Right. But it also makes sense why they want to monetize mods, because if you have that many people still playing, then you have people spending all this time putting out these mods, and now you have a platform for them. Then it's kind of a win-win both for the mod makers to actually make some money off of. If they design something really cool and it gets out there and the community loves it, let them earn some money. Maybe they can make a career out of that. But then also Bethesda gets a kickback for that. I'm sure they get a significant percentage of that because it's on their platform.
Percentage, for sure.
Yeah.
But
so
it
totally makes sense.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a very cool thing that we want to discuss over on Tales of Tamriel 2 is like kind of get into the nitty gritty with it, because it's like, and for a lot of people, they like that.
I'd love to hear you, when you guys talk about, I think the biggest sticking point is the fact that when you purchase something, most of the time you want it to work. And that's the problem with mods, is that sometimes either they just don't work or they don't play nice with the other mods that you have or whatever.
Right.
And on top of it, you have the double problem of, you can read the description, you can look at the screenshots, but you don't know if it's actually going to be the thing that you really want for the playthrough that you're doing or whatever. I think the solution is you can buy the mod or you can try a mod out for like 10 minutes. And then you get a very specific amount of time you can use it. And if you like it, you can buy it. So you get a little trial period. That way you can load it up. You can see if it works, and you can see if it actually does the thing that you think it should do.
Right.
And then you can choose to buy it or not. And that's going to solve a lot of headaches, I think.
Right. And mods aren't really my thing. So I have like very just kind of like tangential knowledge of a lot of this stuff. But, the way with like Creation Club seemed like it was like, okay, here's more of a stable way, I think was the idea. It's like, this is kind of like intro to modding.
Sure.
This almost seems like the next step. And then it's like, okay, now you're getting real weird if you're going with just like unauthorized mods and stuff like that. It's like, hey, this is at your own risk. You can do some really cool stuff.
Right.
But all the gloves are entirely off with this. So I would like to hope that this is curated to a degree that it's like, no, as long as you get the mod order correct, this should function.
Yeah, but at some point you just run out of space. Like you hit a limit. You hit a limit on how many mods can get loaded without other mods that help you load those mods.
Right, which is definitely going to be a bit more of a PC thing where you just have no cap. Whereas on consoles, you can add a decent amount of mods, but it is physically capped on space. So like you can't totally blow it up. Right.
Well, then the other issue is that if you add mods in the middle of a playthrough, then some of them work and some of them don't. Like there's a lot of these, like the little detail stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of variables. That's the part that I think is going to frustrate a lot of the less informed purchasers of these things, or like somebody's parents are like, hey, we bought you, I know you've been wanting that, some mods for your game, we bought you all these mods for your game.
Yeah, we got you the Minecraft skin or whatever.
Or maybe they sell like a pack, like Christmas next year, they're like, here's $50 worth of mod pack, and then you go to load them all up at the same time, but they don't all work together because maybe most of the time they do, but because your gameplay is a certain point and you're trying to load a save, and
you have 22 melons in your house when you try to load this. Well, you're effed.
Right. And Junior doesn't know this because Dad just bought him the mod pack, and then why doesn't it work? And then that creates problems, right? So I think they're probably going to, I'm sure they've been thinking through this stuff, but there's going to be something they need to do for that.
And people are going to have to, I assume, agree to a ton of disclaimers like, hey, this is not within the realm of what's just vanilla game that we
right. I mean, people already complain about like getting in early on like game releases and they don't work well. It's like this is clearly labeled as early pre-release stuff, and people
Sure.
still get mad. Like, well, why is this thing sucking? It's like, well, because
Right.
it's not done. Like,
Yeah, you're playing
well, then
the
you
beta.
shouldn't release it if it's not done. Well, if people get upset about that, knowing that it's clearly labeled that
Well,
this
yeah,
is not
you
ready.
signed up for a beta,
Right.
And you're mad that it doesn't work. That's
Right.
a different scenario.
Those same people are going to get mad when their mods don't work.
Without a doubt.
And it's like, you got to understand what it is you're buying. But anyway, that's it'll be interesting to see how they handle that, how this continues to evolve. And it even has me thinking about, like, maybe I should just learn a
Do you
little
want
bit.
to try? Yeah. Do you want to
about-
try to make a mod?
Wouldn't
Like,
it be fun to just kind of make some funny little companions or something really fun, or to have, our community come up with some ideas? I'm sure there are people out there who are way more skilled at actually doing the stuff than I am, and to have us all work together and put together some ideas, and then have them put this up on the store and then make some money off of it.
Yeah.
That would be so cool. I'd be thrilled if you and I were tossing out ideas with some people in our community, and then somebody's like, yeah, I made like $500 off of this last month. I'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. So,
right.
Anyway, that's what's going on with that stuff. Go check out Tales of Tamriel. I'm sure they're going to be talking about all this stuff. And
Yeah.
of course, I've got other stuff. Robotsradio.net for all my shows. Starfield Lorecast, Fallout Lorecast, Lord of the Rings Lorecast, Mass Effect Lorecast, and a lot of other shows by other hosts as well. So if you're looking for more content, we've got it for you. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Lotus, thanks for being here. Chat,
A pleasure as always.
thanks for being here. All right, we're going to head out. We'll see you next week. See you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach me on Twitter at robots_radio or Lotus of Doom at Lotus of Doom. Also, you can join us on the Robots Radio Discord channel. You can easily just search Robots Radio Discord on Google or check the description underneath the podcast. Also, this podcast is recorded live every week on Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Robots Radio channels on Twitch, YouTube, and on Facebook. So just search Robots Radio on any of those platforms. Come join us. We'd love to chat with you while we record the show, or before or after. Either way, just come hang out with us. And if you're looking for more information about my shows and the shows on the Robots Radio Network, go to robotsradio.net for all the information about all the shows on the network, including the Robots Radio Rocket Club, where I help both new and existing podcasters to grow their shows, build their audiences, and create the best podcasts they possibly can. All of that at robotsradio.net. We'll see you next time.